East Semitic, an introduction with text samples in Akkadian. So, hello everyone, Ana Kunushim Lushulmum. This is your Ancient Semitic YouTube channel. And finally, my third video is here, so it took me a while. I'm currently working on several of my planned videos simultaneously, so a lot of different videos are work in progress right now, but I've decided that I'd speed up this video on East Semitic to get it done, so you get to see something. Okay, so this video deals with East Semitic. My first video was about Semitic in general, second video about Afro-Asiatic, and now in the following videos I will deal with each branch or each language of the Semitic language family individually. And I will give you a short overview. I will not teach you the entire language. Like in this video, I cannot teach you Akkadian entirely because, I mean, I'm in my fourth semester of Akkadian now. Now I'm starting to feel confident in that language. And yeah, I can't even teach you one single semester in one short video. So just a short overview. It's mostly aimed at people who are either interested in getting a very general overview, or people that already know a couple of Semitic languages and just want to get a taste of Akkadian. And it's mostly, my main focus of my channel has always been pronunciation. And again, in these following videos, I will focus a lot on pronunciation. But I will not just read text, but I will give you an insight into why I pronounce those languages like that and give you some background. And I'm trying to make it like some kind of instruction, like how do you read, how do you pronounce, like some kind of pronunciation guide, maybe you could call it like that. Okay, yeah, let's get started and have a look at East Semitic and especially at Akkadian. East Semitic. So what is East Semitic? I've already given you an overview of the different branches of the Semitic language family. So let me just activate my laser pointer. East Semitic is mostly seen as being divided into two languages, Akkadian and Eblite. Though Eblite, there's some ongoing discussion whether it is actually East Semitic. I will talk about that in a minute. Mostly East Semitic is seen as at least including the Akkadian language. So here you can see an approximate map, very approximate, because you don't know the exact borders of the language area for sure, and those areas have changed over the centuries. But in general, Babylonian was spoken in southern Mesopotamia and Assyrian in the north, and those two are seen as dialects of one language that we call Akkadian. And much further to the west, we see Eblite. Well, it's to the west, not to the east. So East Semitic, the name East Semitic doesn't necessarily mean that those languages were all only spoken in the east of the Semitic-speaking area, but you know, names are conventions, just like Central Semitic, Northwest Semitic, etc. So you could give it another name, but the name East Semitic works, so that's what we call it. Akkadian is divided into several chronological stages, and the dialects Babylonian and Assyrian as well. So first of all, the oldest stage of Akkadian is Old Akkadian, spoken from circa 2600 until probably 2112 BCE. And after that we see this dialectal split into Babylonian and Assyrian. Babylonian and Assyrian are further divided into several chronological stages. So in the case of Babylonian, we've got early, old, middle, neo, and late Babylonian. Late Babylonian was probably not a spoken language, but a purely written language, and it ceased being used around 100 CE and was replaced by other languages like Aramaic, etc. And besides Babylonian, there's the Assyrian dialect, further divided into Old, Middle, and Neo-Assyrian. Assyrian ceased being used around 600 BCE, so somewhat earlier than Babylonian. If you would take an Akkadian class in university or get a textbook to teach yourself, they mostly deal with Old Babylonian. Old Babylonian is also the language of the Code of Hammurabi, and it kind of serves as the standard dialect of Akkadian that is taught in universities and textbooks. And then usually after a few semesters, maybe beginning with the third semester, students will start also reading text in other dialects, also in Assyrian and in late Babylonian, etc. But Old Babylonian is usually like what you start with when you learn Akkadian, which is why most of my examples in this video will be Old Babylonian, but not exclusively. Yes, so what's the problem with Ablite? I will not include any Ablite texts in my video. Sorry if you expected that, but Ablite is really obscure because it makes very heavy use of logographic or ideographic signs. I will talk more about the writing system later, but Ablite is just very hard to decipher. It's mostly logographic signs, so signs that have a word meaning but don't show you how these words are actually pronounced. And that's also one of the reasons why there is still some ongoing discussion whether it is actually East Semitic or it just looks like East Semitic but is actually West Semitic, and the differences are just hard to figure out. Okay, so sorry, no Ablite examples in this video. Maybe at some point I will make a bonus video on Ablite, but so far I don't feel comfortable with it, and I will stick with Akkadian in this video. So let's take a further look at Akkadian. First of all, what I want to do here, I want to present some features of East Semitic that set it apart from other branches of Semitic, and this is also something that I would like to do in my future videos. So I will not teach you every detail of that language because it would just be too much for a video like this. I want to show you some features that let's see, that I think many of my viewers already know at least one Semitic language like Arabic or Hebrew, or at least you have some idea of Semitic languages, and I want to show you some features that might help you, for example, read Akkadian if you already know Arabic. So some features that clearly set the language I'm talking about in each video, that set it apart from other Semitic languages. Know what I mean? Or maybe some features that are very prominent, or that are striking when you read text in a certain Semitic language or when you watch my videos. Okay, so just some very rough overview over those distinctive features. So one of the features of East Semitic, at least of Akkadian, is the loss of laryngeal consonants. To be precise, the loss of laryngeal consonants after Old Akkadian. So in Old Akkadian, it looks like those consonants were still there, but in Old Babylonian and Old Assyrian, it seems like they are not there anymore. So laryngeal consonants are the glottal stop, also known as Aleph or Hamza, depending on what Semitic languages you usually use as a reference to name these sounds. So glottal stop, Ayin, Ha, and Ha, all of them are completely lost in Akkadian from Old Babylonian and Old Assyrian. That's why, for example, the word for head. In Arabic, you say Ra'sun with a glottal stop, with a Hamza in Arabic, Ra'sun. In Ge'ez, you say Re'is. In Hebrew, it is lost, you say Rosh. And in Syriac, you say Resha. It is also lost in those two. And just like in Hebrew and Syriac, it is lost in Akkadian, which is why it looks like in Akkadian you said Reshum. Okay? And this is a sound in all Semitic languages. It seems to get lost very easily, and also outside of Semitic, glottal stops seem to be very weak and are lost easily. I mean, even in many or most Arabic dialects, you would say Ras instead of Ras. And I mean, in Ge'ez, you apparently said Re'is, but in modern Ethio-Semitic languages like Amharic, it's also Ras. Okay, so this is kind of a very common sound change in Semitic and also outside Semitic that we encounter here in Akkadian. So let's talk about the Ayin. This one is preserved in many more Semitic languages. So like the word for husband or master, in Arabic you say ba'alun, in Ge'ez you say ba'al, in Hebrew you said ba'al, at least in the Masoretic pronunciation, ba'al, and in Syriac you have ba'alo, but in Akkadian it looks like it's lost as well. In Akkadian you say belum. Okay, belum, master or lord, or not husband. In some languages it's husband, and Akkadian husband is mutum, so belum is more like master. The word for river, in Arabic you have nahrun, Hebrew nahar, Syriac nahra, all of them written with a ha or he, but in Akkadian it is just narum. And concerning the sound ha, the pharyngeal fricative, in Arabic donkey or ass is himarun, in Hebrew it's hamor, and in Syriac, depending on whether you use the Western or Eastern pronunciation, it's hmara or khmara. But in Akkadian it's imarum. Imarum. And you see in all of these, in most of these examples, at least in head, master, and the donkey or ass, you see an e vowel, and the e vowel in Akkadian mostly occurs in places or in words where one of those laryngeals was lost. So that helps you actually identifying Akkadian words that look unfamiliar at first glance. Something that is sometimes preserved is the what you would call the ghain in Arabic, and I didn't find any example that has cognates in all Semitic languages. But so the ghain is sometimes lost, just like the ayin and the ha, but sometimes it's preserved and it is written as a cha in Akkadian. And the one laryngeal sound that is always preserved in Akkadian is the cha, which is also cha in Akkadian. So if you look at the word for 5 in Semitic languages, in Arabic you have khamsun, or khamsatun, the feminine. In Ge'ez you have khams. In Hebrew you have hamish, and in Syriac, again depending on your pronunciation tradition, you have hammesh or chamish, and in Akkadian also you have chamshum. Okay, so the cha is preserved, chamshum. So yeah, this is something that concerns phonology and might really help you identifying Akkadian words, that if you're mindful of these phonological mergers, at second glance it may be a lot easier to find Akkadian cognates that you already know from other Semitic languages. In terms of morphology, what sets East Semitic apart from most other, actually from all other Semitic languages, is the verbal system. Let's start at the bottom, because I assume that lots of people watching these videos are maybe familiar with Arabic and Hebrew. So let's say all Central Semitic languages, which includes Arabic, also epigraphic South Arabian, at least Sabaic, but also Hebrew and Aramaic. All of those have these two verb forms. Let me use a different color. So in Arabic, for example, you have yanfuch and nafacha. Okay, so yanfuch is the we would call it the imperfect, and nafacha is the perfect. So this one has a prefix and this one has a suffix. And also in Hebrew, for example, you have yaqtul and qatal. In Syriac you have naqtul and qatal, etc. So all of those Central Semitic languages have those two verb forms, one with prefixes, one with suffixes. And if we go to the top and we talk about Akkadian, Akkadian has these two verb forms, inappach and ippuch, and it does not have a suffix conjugation verb form. It has some kind of archaic form of that, but that's called the verbal adjective. Some books call it the stative, and it's more like an adjective than a verb. But in principle, Akkadian has these two forms, inappach and ippuch. Both are using prefixes. Okay. So if you conjugated ippuch, you would have forms also like nippuch, tappuch, tappuchi, etc., all with prefixes. Ippuch is the preterite, so used for the past tense. and in napach is the durative, and it's mostly used for the present and future, and its distinctive feature is this doubling of the second radical. So there's also eparas and things like that. Okay, so what happened in Central Semitic languages like Arabic and Hebrew? This form disappeared, and the verbal adjective was repurposed to be used for the past tense, the nafaha, or it's also called the fa'ala in Arabic, and the qatal form in Hebrew, etc. Okay, and if we look at Ethio-Semitic languages like Ge'ez or modern South Arabian, we see they are some kind of step in between. That's why, for example, Ge'ez has 3 verb forms. It has nefcha for the past with suffixes, but yinfach, that's like the subjunctive if the verb is subordinate, and for the present tense it also has this verb form with gemination, yenefech. And this is not the form 2. This is not like the PL in Hebrew or the fa'ala yufa'al in Arabic, because that would be yenefech in Ge'ez. But yenefech is just the G stem, the basic form in the present tense. So yenefech, present tense, yenfach, subordinate, nefcha, past tense. So it's a step in between East Semitic and Central Semitic. Okay, and this is something that is usually seen as the defining feature setting East Semitic apart from West Semitic. And talking about syntax, there's one syntactic feature, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about this in my first video on Semitic in general. So what is striking in Akkadian is that it mostly has an SOV syntax, which means the verb comes at the end, in contrast to the VSO syntax in most other, at least classical Semitic languages, which is, for example, if we took the sentence, the dog ate a bone. In Arabic, the verb akala is at the beginning, akala al-kalbu adman, so ate the dog a bone. In Hebrew as well, ochal, the verb at the beginning, ochal hakelev aisem. And in Ge'ez we have a different verb still, it's at the beginning, bel'a kelb atzmeh. Okay, so all of those 3 have the verb at the beginning, which is the probably the Proto-Semitic order of a verbal sentence, so verb, subject, object. But in Akkadian, kalbum, the dog, etzemtam, a bone, ikul, ate, comes at the end. This happened probably under the influence of Sumerian. So because there's been massive language contact between Akkadian and Sumerian, that's why we have this syntax. So let's look at the writing system, because I want to show you how to read and pronounce Akkadian. So Akkadian is written in the Cuneiform script. It's called Cuneiform because the script consists of wedges. Wedge is cuneus in Latin, and these were produced by pushing a wooden stick into wet clay. And well, clay has been the standard writing material in those cuneiform using cultures like the Sumerians and Akkadians. And there were also inscriptions on stone, but the writing system was invented by writing on wet clay. So here you see a nice picture of a clay tablet with cuneiform signs. It was invented for Sumerian, but then also used or adapted to Akkadian and other languages that were neither Semitic nor Sumerian, like Elamite, Hittite, etc. And that is also one problem, because the language was designed for the Sumerian language, and it was not really fit to be used for languages with totally different phonological systems. So you will see Akkadian is sometimes a little hard to decipher, because cuneiform is not made for Akkadian, and it is difficult to represent certain sounds of Akkadian with this writing system originally intended to be used for Sumerian. So it is mostly a syllabary, which means you don't write single consonants, but syllables like ba, be, bi, bu, but also closed syllables like ab, ib, ub, etc. And also consonant, vowel, consonant kind of syllables like bab or gag or bit, etc. Okay. It also contains logograms or ideograms, so signs that represent whole words like house, man, go, grade 5, etc. And determinatives. You will see in my examples exactly how it works, but a determinative is simply a sign that tells you what the following or the preceding sign means. So whether it's a proper name or a place name, a word for some kind of tool or something like that. There's many different styles as well of cuneiform writing: Old Babylonian monumental, Old Babylonian cursive, Neo Babylonian, Neo Assyrian, etc. And I will show you examples for those different styles of cuneiform writing. So here are just two examples. This is pictographic Sumerian, where you can pretty much still see that these signs represent things, that they're actually pictures. This looks like a hand, and the other things, maybe this is a tree, so you can still kind of figure out what it is just by looking at it. And then over time the signs became more and more abstract, and so for example in cursive Babylonian you cannot really see what those signs mean. They just become abstract sequences of wedges, and yeah, you kind of need to know how to read to be able to decipher those texts. This is a picture from a book. This book is called Manuel d'Epigraphie Akkadienne. It was written or published by René Labat in 1948, and it is a cuneiform lexicon. And here you can see how he arranges signs. He gives you the form of those signs in different periods or in different styles of cuneiformic writing. Let me show you the legend for this. So you can see to the left you have Sumerian, you have pictographic Sumerian, where you still can see that this is supposed to be a head, a human head. And there's classic Sumerian, where the signs have been rotated and they start becoming abstract. And then you have Assyrian and Babylonian, all divided into Old, Middle, and Neo. You see the sign is not attested in Old Assyrian, but in all the other periods, and in the other periods as well. It has many different variations, but you can see in most of those later examples it doesn't really look like a head anymore, unless you know what it looked like in pictographic Sumerian. And this is, for me, from the learner's perspective, one aspect that makes cuneiform writing really hard to learn in comparison, for example, to Egyptian hieroglyphs, where it makes it much easier to memorize a mouth and a head than these piles of wedges, so in my opinion. And here you can also see the same sign from the same book, the Manuel d'Epigraphie Akkadienne. Here's the head sign again, and here are the explanations how to read it. So there's some phonetic values, so you can read it as sak. There's also a G and a Q, meaning sak can also be read sag and sak, but you can also read it shak, shag, shak, rish, ris, res, and sha. And because there's so many signs, so many different signs that can be read sha, they're numbered, and this one is sha number 24. Okay, so you can see these pronunciation, these phonetic values are very different, and there's also many different signs that can be read the same way. That's why this is sha number 24. And some information on meaning, for example, sag, which is the Sumerian pronunciation of this sign, would be pronounced reshu in Akkadian, and the translation here, this book is in French, is tête, so it means head. But also mukhu in Akkadian, which means kran, which is brain, as far as I know, or putu, which is front or face, etc. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of complicated writing system, but that's just how it works. So let's look at examples, and now step by step I will show you how you can read and then also how you can pronounce Akkadian. So there's a sequence of signs here. This is the first line of a legal document. The first one, well, this sign, as most other signs, has many different semantic and also phonetic values. So if you read Akkadian, if you're an Assyriologist, and you're the first one to read a certain document, first of all you need to figure out how to read every sign in this very context. So this sign in this context is a syllable sign ash. It is followed by another syllable sign shum. There's a hyphen between them because if you're an Assyriologist and you're deciphering this, you already recognize a word ashum, which is a preposition meaning concerning something. Okay, so ash and shum, ashum means concerning. The next two signs you can see in my transliteration, they are transliterated with capital letters, which means these are not syllable signs, but these are so-called sumerograms, so they represent an logographic or ideographic value and are not to be read as syllables. And there's an explanation here. So sag means reshum, which is the Akkadian word for head. Gemme, there's an accent above it. The accent means this is the second Gemme sign. So by Assyriologists have just numbered signs that have the same pronunciation, and they have just defined this one as being the second one. So this is Gemme number 2. Gemme number 2 means amtum, which means female servant, a maid servant, female slave, like amma in Arabic and other cognates. Okay, but so sag is head, Gemme number 2 is female slave, but the word amtum or female slave can also be written as sag gemme, which means we can basically ignore the sag here, and sag gemme number 2 just means amtum, which is female slave. In my transliteration, it is amtim, because it's in the genitive, because it is preceded by a preposition. So the word normally is amtum, but after ashum you say amtim. And you see this information that it's in the genitive is not included in the writing. It's not included in the cuneiformic text. Sometimes they would have added syllable signs at the end, like sag gemme number 2 and then im to indicate the case, but sometimes they did not indicate it because they assumed whoever is reading this knows how to properly speak Akkadian. And modern Assyriologists as well need to know Akkadian grammar to properly transcribe this, Akkadian texts in general. So, concerning the female slave, and then there are 4 syllable signs, and that's just the name of that female slave. So, da, mi, ik, tum, damiktum. Okay, that is how cuneiformic writing for Akkadian works. Second line of the same text, syllable sign sha, Sumerian sign dumu. Dumu means marum, which is sun, and then erzetim. So sha, mar, erzetim, and mar does not really mean sun here, but it's just part of a proper name, mar, erzetim. So even proper names are sometimes or very often written using Sumerian logographic signs. So concerning the female slave damiktum, which mar erzetim, so the verb is still missing, and in Akkadian the verb comes at the end, so we will see the verb in a couple of seconds. So what about this female slave? Adad-nērārī, and now in the transliteration you see a small d here. It represents this sign. This sign in Sumerian is pronounced dingir. The Akkadian translation is ilum, this means God. But here you are not supposed to read the word ilum. This sign only tells you that the following signs are the name of a god, of a deity. And we call these signs determinatives. They are not read, they are just there to tell you what follows is a proper name, a name of a deity, a place name, or something like that. Okay? So this deity determinative is followed by 2 signs, en and tzu. En tzu is the Sumerian way of writing the god who is named Tzin in Akkadian. Okay? But we're not talking about the god Tzin here, but about Erib Tzin, who is a person. So the names of gods are very often also components of proper names. So that's a theophoric proper name. And now at the very end, now the sentence is going to be finished, we have the verb idzibu. Idzibu. Idzib means he left. And the u at the end is just because it's a subordinate clause, because it's a relative clause. So it just means to eribziehen, he left. So he left that slave, that female slave, to eribziehen, and it was like an inheritance. So these lines are the beginning of a lawsuit protocol that has to do with inheritance concerning that slave. Okay, Anna eribziehen idzibu. And that's how you read Akkadian. Now let's go on to the exact pronunciation of those signs. So, cuneiform is a syllabary. Let's start with the vowels. It has 4 distinct signs for vowels. There may have been more vowels. Maybe there was an O as well in Akkadian, but it doesn't show in the writing system. So in the writing system, we can only differentiate between A, E, I, U. Nothing is really known about the exact phonetic realization of those sounds, whether this was more like A or more like E, we don't really know. I guess it was more like A maybe, because it mostly occurs in places, at least in Akkadian, where laryngeal consonants were deleted, but still not sure. And keep in mind that there are other signs to represent those sounds. So, for example, instead of this U sign, you will also see many instances of U number 2 and U number 3, so 2 other signs to express the same vowel. And I've also seen U number 4 a couple of times. So yeah, these are just the most common ways of writing these vowels. And I would say U number 2 and maybe also number 3 are even more common than this one. I just included this one because this is number 1. This is U number 1, defined as such by Assyriologists. Okay, so 4 vowels: A, E, I, U. Now consonants. There are 2 nasals, namely M and N, and each of those has 4 corresponding signs for open syllables. So we have ma, me, mi, mu, na, ne, ni, nu. And you see, this is not an abugida or an alpha syllabary. This is a true syllabic script, which means, for example, the syllables na and ne do not look anything alike. You cannot derive one from the other. You have to learn all of these by heart. So ma, me, mi, mu, na, ne, ni, nu. And there are also signs for closed syllables. And here you see something that is very common in Akkadian. For most consonants, the signs for closed syllables do not differentiate between the E and I vowel. There are only, I think, 3 or 4 consonants where this happens. N is one of them, which is why you see 2 distinct signs for N and in. But for the vast majority of consonants, in the closed syllable signs, you need to figure out in each context whether it is read as M or im. You always need to figure that out by yourself. Okay, so this is this is M or im, it depends, and this is and there are 4 signs here: an, en, in, un. Recognize this. This is the sign for God, dingir. We've seen this before. Why is it also an? Because it also means sky, and sky is an in Sumerian. And it is also a deification of the sky, so the sky god, who is also known as Anum in Akkadian. Yeah, that's how cuneiform works. Now let's go to bilabial stops. There's a voiced and a voiceless bilabial stop. So you've got the signs ba, be, bi, bu. Bu can also be read pu, so those 2 phonetic values seem to be one as common as the other. And you have a sign for pa. This sign can be read pe, pi, or also wa, we, wi, or wu. And this one, because this is already pu, this one is pu number 2. And for closed syllables, we see one phenomenon that is just part of cuneiform writing. Closed syllable signs do not differentiate between voiced and voiceless stops, and also not between voiced, voiceless, and glottalic, which is why this sign can be read ab or up, and you just have to figure out when you read a text. And this one can be read eb or ep, ib or ip, and this one can be ub or up. Alveolar stops. Here you see the typical tripartite differentiation in Akkadian and many other Semitic languages, which is between a voiced and an emphatic and a voiceless stop. And emphatic consonants were probably pronounced as glottalic or ejective consonants in Akkadian, which is why this was pronounced something like t, similar to how Ethio-Semitic languages and some modern South Arabian languages still pronounce this kind of consonant. Hence, this sign could be pronounced da or ta, so it was used for both, for the voiced and the ejective, because apparently the inventory of signs was very limited. It was appropriate for Sumerian, but for Akkadian it was not really enough, so that's why you have many signs that have the same sign even though they're pronounced differently. So this one is da or ta, and this one can be pronounced de or di, te or ti. So it doesn't even have distinct signs for the different vowels due to the limited sign inventory. But there are different signs for do and tu. And we have 4 different signs for the voiceless stop, so ta, te, ti, tu. Closed syllables. As I said, no differentiation between voiced, emphatic, and voiceless. Hence, one sign for ad, at, and at. And one sign for ed, et, id, it. And one sign for ud, ut, ut. Velar stops. So we have the voiced g, the emphatic k, and the voiceless k. So ga, ge or gi, gu. Ka, ke or ki, ku. Ka, ke or ki, also to be read as ke number 2 or ki number 2, and ku. And this one can be ag, ak, or ak, egg, ek, ig, ik. And finally, this one can be ug, uk, or uk. Now the sibilants. Sibilants are something that's a little complicated in Akkadian because they were probably pronounced a little different according to dialect, chronological stage, etc. So let's make this short. If you've watched my past videos on Akkadian, reading the Code of Hammurabi, etc., I changed my pronunciation at some point. Well, I have to change it again because I was reading more literature and I've changed my opinion on at least Old Babylonian pronunciation again. So we have this sign, which is transliterated with an S with a hat check above. So we usually call it sheen in Semitic studies or Assyriology. In my first videos, I pronounced it sh, then later I pronounced it s, and it turns out it was actually pronounced probably. I mean, this is theory, you don't know for sure because you don't have any audio recordings or any phonetic descriptions from those times, but it seems like it was actually pronounced like a normal S, in Old Akkadian and in Assyrian, but not in Babylonian. It looks like in Babylonian it was penalized to this sh sound. So forget the way I pronounced it in my most recent old videos from 2016 or something, but actually these 4 signs are to be pronounced sha, she, shi, shu in Old Babylonian. In Assyrian, they were probably pronounced sa, se, si, su, and also in Old Akkadian, but not in Old Babylonian. Okay, so from now on, at least in this video, it shall be sha, she, she, shu. In Old Babylonian, I'm not doing Old Babylonian only, as I said, but that's Old Babylonian. The other ones may have been pure fricatives or affricate. I would still say it's more likely to be an affricate pronunciation in Old Babylonian. So this one is z, this one t, and this one t. So this sign could represent both za or ta. This one ze or zi, and this one zu, and this one te or ti, and this one zu. And the final row was probably ta, te or ti, zu. Okay, and that is for Old Babylonian. Now the closed syllable signs, ash, esh, ish, ush. This is one of the consonants where e and e are differentiated, kept apart in the closed syllable signs. That's why we have 4, ash, esh, ish, ush. And these ones, no differentiation between voiced, voiceless, and emphatic again. So ads, at, or ats. Eds, et, ets, ids, it, its. And this one is udz, ut, or uts. All right. Now liquids. Liquids is kind of an outdated term, but it makes sense when I organize the signs like I do in this video. So there's an L, la, le, or li, and lu, and there is an R sound, and this may sound very odd if you know Arabic, for example, and to me, Arabic was my first Semitic language. Still, there seems to be evidence that the R in Akkadian was not a trilled alveolar R like the Ra in Arabic, but more like a guttural R kind of sound. This may make Akkadian sound odd, and in one of my old videos I got comments that my Akkadian, as soon as I started pronouncing it like this, people said that my Akkadian sounds like Hebrew. Why do you pronounce it with an Israeli accent? Well, I mean, it seems like that's what it sounded like. It doesn't have to do anything with modern Hebrew, but seems like Old Babylonian at least, or maybe Akkadian in general, had this kind of guttural R sound. So these 4, I would read them Ra, Re, or Ri, and Ru. In my very first videos I said Ra, Re, Ri, Ru. I don't think anymore that they sounded like that, so Ra, Re, Ri, Ru. There seems to be evidence that this is how the Babylonians spoke. And we've got closed syllable signs, of course. We have al, el, il, ul, and we have ar, er, or ir, and ur. Now, you see we're almost done because these ones are just others. There's a kind of wowish sound, but there's only one sign, wa, we, we, wu. And this is also the sign, you've seen it before, for pe and p. Here's the guttural, cha, che or chi, and hu. And there's also a sign for a glottal stop. So these are for open syllables, and this, you could say this is the only purely consonantal non-syllabic sign in this Akkadian syllabary. Closed syllables, ach, ech, ich, uch, all written with the same sign. So let's look at sample text. I don't need to say much. I don't want to make the video too long. I just want to show you how to read an Akkadian text and how I think it should be pronounced. First line, again, it's a legal document, and again, it's concerning a female slave. So, na. This small I means this sign is what is also named with a German term in Assyriology, Personenkeil, and this just tells you that the following is a person. It occurs very frequently in front of personal names, proper names, but in this case, it just occurs before the noun for that person. So what is that person? It's a gemme number 2. It's a amtum, a female slave. Okay, so in Akkadian you read this Anna amtim at kalshem, concerning a slave, so that is a female slave, at kalchen. These are just syllabic signs, so sha, a, ya, ti, ya, ma, sha. In Akkadian, that is sha, a, ya, ti, ya, ma, sha. Which Ayatia, her mother. So what did her mother do to her? Anna, sorry, Anna Chulaltum. Sorry, I made a mistake here. This should be I as well. So because it is Anna Chulaltim. Okay, this is a proper name, Chulaltum, and proper names are sometimes inflected by case, and because there's Anna here, it's a preposition, you need the genitive case, which is Chulaltim. On personal names, though, this has not been done very consequentially. It's not reliable, so very often personal names remain uninflected. But in this case, it is in the genitive, it is inflected. So Anna Chulaltim, and then what? Then we have 4 Sumerian signs. Dumu munus a ni. Dumu munus means daughter, which is martum in Akkadian, and a ni means his or her. So his would be shu, and her would be sha. Here we need to figure out whether this is shu or sha, but because we were talking about a mother before, a female person, we need to make it sha, her daughter, which is martisha in Akkadian. So Anna Chulaltim martisha. And now comes the verb idzibu she, left her, she left her, like in terms of inheritance. Idzibu she ma, the ma tells you to go on, it's like a connector. Chulaltum and chulaltum. So what did chulaltum do? It goes on. Ayatia, ummasha, which means her mother. And also here you see the so-called Personenkeil in front of the proper name, Ayatia. Made a small mistake on the transliteration here, but this is a deity, a goddess. Aya, it was probably with a geminated middle glide, so Aya, it's probably correct. And now the verb, so what did she do? Itashushima, she has supported her, which means she was probably old and her daughter took care of her. Itashushima. Next sentence. Here you see the person marker and the deity marker, and then we have Entzu. We've seen that one before. That is the god Zin, and the rest of the proper name is Na-Tsir, and then Muti, which is the consort form of Mutum, which means husband. So we read Zin Na-Tsir Muti. Zin Na-Tsir, the husband of whom? Can you guess? Of Ayatia. So the husband of Ayatia, Sha ina bulut, in the lifetime of somebody. It goes on. So I added the of here because I already know what comes next. So the husband of Ayatia, in the lifetime of Ayatia. So in the lifetime of Ayatia. And here we have mu, which means year. Shatum in Akkadian, or Shanat in the consort state. Then we have 2 wedges, each one is 10, so the 2 of them are 20, and kam is some kind of number marker which follows numbers. So mu, 20, kam, in Akkadian this is Eshra Shanatim, 20 years. So in the lifetime of Ayatia, 20 years, which I think means when she was 20 years old. And now the verb idzibu shima. So idzibu or idzib, he left, she, her, and the ma just means again, it goes on. So apparently he left her, his wife, when she was 20 years old. Keep in mind, people got married at a young age, and I think women in Old Babylon got married at 14 or 15 or something. So they were probably married for a couple of years when he left her at her age of 20. And then what? There's a sign here, which is a Sumerian sign, dup, which in Akkadian is tupum, or in the construct state, tupi. So tupi la ragam, a contract of not suing. So, and a contract saying he will not sue. By the way, there's a scribal error here. At the end, it just says ra-am. But we know, because this exact same phrase occurs again and again in legal texts, we know this must be tupi la ragam. So the writer obviously just forgot the ga sign, and I've added it using these square brackets to indicate that I've added a sign here that is missing in the original text. So tupi la ragam, a contract saying he will not sue. Ana mimma sha'ayatiyama idzibu. So he will not sue over what? Over anything that belongs to Ayatiya. And he drew up. So he drew up the document saying he will not sue. And again, you can see I've added the idzibu. It is missing in the original text, which is probably also a scribal error because the sentence needs to have a verb at the end. And secondly, you can add this by analogy because this phrase occurs very often in legal texts. Now, ishtu ayatiya, after ayatiya. Anashima tisha, to her destiny. Illiku, she went. So after Ayatiya went to her destiny, which is a euphemistic way of saying after Ayatiya died. So to die is often expressed as go to one's destiny. And then what happened? Tsin natsir ana chulaltum. Oh, and again, sorry, made a mistake here, because in the text it's ana chulaltim, the name is inflected. Okay. And you see something interesting here. You've seen the name Tsin Natsir before. It was written with the sign for deities, and then with the Sumerian Enzu, which is the god Tsin. Here it is written with a syllabic sign, Tsin. So you will see in Akkadian the name of one person spelled differently in the same text, which today, imagine your name is Stephen with a V, somebody spells it with a PH, you would correct him, no, it's Stephen with a V. But apparently back in those days, it didn't really matter how to write that name. So Tsin, you could use the Tsin syllabic sign, you could use Tsi, In, two signs, or you could use the Sumerian, the Sumerograms, Enzu. So it seems like it didn't really matter to them. Ashum at Kalshim, because of at Kalshim. Irgumma, he sued. And now karma in the next sentence starts. You see that those lines do not correspond to sentences. Those scribes had to use the space that they had available on those clay tablets. So very often you will see these very short lines and a sentence ending in the middle of the line and the next sentence starting. Makes it a little complicated to read them, but that's just how they wrote. So Irgumma, he sued, and then something else starts. Isharlim, which is a proper name. So let's find out who Isharlim is. So who is he? Rabbiyan Tzipar, the mayor of the city of Sippar. And this city is written in Sumerian with a sequence of signs that is simply read as Tsimpir. Okay, Tsimpir, it is treated as one sign. The last sign is Ki, which is usually written after place names, and it's a determinative telling you that what's written before that sign is a place name, it's a city or a country, some kind of land. So Tsimpir, in Akkadian, Tzipar. Rabbiyan Tzipar, the mayor of Sippar. Ukar Tzipar dinam. And the commerce chamber, so karum is some kind of commerce chamber of Sippar. Dinam, a legal process. So they did something with a legal process. Again, the verb will follow at the end of the sentence. And there's the verb. Uṣar-namkūr-šarre shunutima. They conducted for them. So uṣar means he conducted. Uṣar they conducted. And shunuti is for them. And ma again means that there's still something else following. So ma is like and. It is connecting. Uṣar shunutima. Arnam-i midushu. And they imposed a penalty. Actually imposed a penalty on him. Shu is like him. Ul-itarma ul-iragam. He will not return and sue again. This sentence comes very often close to the end of these legal process protocols. And there's a scribal error. It says iragamu. The final sign is mu. But because this exact same formula occurs so often, and there's no reason to say mu here, because mu would either be subordinate or plural, which doesn't make sense here. It refers to a single person. It has to be iragam. It is also itar and not itaru. So if it is itar, it has to be iragam. We know this phrase from many documents, so that's why I corrected mu to am, and this correction is marked with an exclamation mark, which means I replaced the sign. So ul-itarma ul-iragam, he will not return and sue again. What follows now is a kind of oath that is taken, so they are swearing. There's a Sumerian mu sign, which is translated as nish. Nishu means life, but not bultum. Bultum is the life of normal people. Nishum is the life of gods and kings. And at the end of those documents, the parties would always swear by the life of, like in this case, the Sumerian god Utu, which is Shamash in Akkadian, and Amr-Utu, which is Marduk, and you know this guy, Hammurapi, so a king of Babylon. He was Amorite, so his name in Amorite was probably pronounced Hammurapi, but in Akkadian it's written Hammurapi. And the P number 2 can also be read as B, which is why in English you will still find him as a Hammurabi, like the Code of Hammurabi, but actually his name has to be read as Hammurapi with a P at the end. So now it says Din Isharlim, which just means this is the verdict of Isharlim, the mayor of the city of Sippar. P Shamash Wakil Tamkari. P Shamash, the chief merchant, so apparently the head of that commerce chamber that is involved in this legal process. You see, all of these are Sumerian signs. There's no sign in this line that is to be read as an Akkadian syllabic sign. Itti Ellilkinni. So now comes a list of witness names, and this is one of the witnesses of this legal process. Itti Ellilkinni. Another witness, Burzin. Another witness, Ilshubani. And now, as usual, at the end of those protocols comes the date. Mostly it is a noun and the day, the exact day. Here the day is missing. They only give us the month. So Iti in Sumerian means month, which is Warhu or Warach in Akkadian. And the month is written Shekinkut in Sumerian, but it is Addarum in Akkadian. And if you know Arabic and maybe you're from Syria or Iraq or Lebanon, what month is it now? I mean, people from Egypt or from Saudi Arabia will probably say it is Maris, but people from the Levant or Mesopotamia will probably say this month is Adar. Okay, and this goes back to the Babylonian calendar Addarum. Also in Hebrew, you still use the same name as far as I know. And the years are usually not numbered. Sometimes they are numbered, but still in reference to certain events, independence or other events. And very often it seems like years are named after things that were built, very often canals. That's why here a lot of Sumerian signs, Mu, E number 7, T, Lim, Da, God, N, Lil number 2, La number 2. So who knows what a Sumerian would have read this? Mu, E, Tilim, Da, En, Lilla, maybe like that. But in Akkadian it's Shanat Nar Tilimat Ellil. So the year of the canal Tilimat Ellil. Tilimat Ellil apparently is the name of a canal that I guess was built or initiated in that year. And that's a full Old Babylonian legal text. Let me give you one more example, but the following example will be a little different. I'm not giving you cuneiform. I'm not giving you a sign-by-sign transliteration. I'm only giving you the normalization, and I'm reading it to you without any explanations and without a translation. I will add a translation to this video's description, so you can look it up later. But what I want to do, I just want you to listen and to maybe enjoy it, and maybe try to figure out, maybe you know other Semitic languages, and maybe this helps you to figure out what the following text is talking about. And even if you don't find out, then just look it up in my video's description. But now enjoy the following text. It is not in Old Babylonian, it is in Middle Assyrian. So I need to make sure to pronounce the sheens as scenes. Ana Šalipiyu kibima, Uṣur-namkūr-šarre, Adad-nērārī nagar-mugerre im Tahranni, ma iltetatana saemara adi salalte emaretz it libbisa utzabbit iltesu, ma atanu tsutitusit ula-makzat, ma atanu la-tsutiat, ma atanu umzarchu sabitiasit, ma atalkassu, ma emariya bila, ma khalku, ma lassu, ma uma iltet atana atamarinakat asura yatsabat, atana uktallimanni, sibutika mimma saanadababika in lukuni lekialka, in adenika dubbu, tsin esrau rebu umu, limu abatumma. That is the text. I know that this probably does not really sound like a natural language. It is very difficult, I think, to read Akkadian in a manner that sounds natural. One reason might be the nature of the text, because I mean this is a legal document. This is a very formal text. The other problem might be that nobody really knows what Akkadian sounded like. We can just guess based on the material that we have, based on analogy to other Semitic languages. It still doesn't really sound natural, but I'm just trying to get there as close as I can. Let me just read it again. Maybe I can try to read it more fluently. Ana Šalipiyu kibima, Uṣur-namkūr-šarre, Adad-nērārī nagar-mugerre im Tahranni, ma iltetatana saemara adi salalte emaretzit libisa utzabbit iltesu, ma atanu tsutitusit ula-makzat, ma atanu la-tsutiat, ma atanu umzarchu sabitiasit, ma talkassu, ma mariya bila, ma khalku, ma lassu, ma uma iltetatana atamarinakat asura yatsabat, atanu uktallimanni, sibutika mimma saanadababika lukuni lekialka, in adenika dubbu, tsin esrau rebumu, limu abatumma. Okay, try to, like when one word ends with a vowel and the next one starts with a vowel, try to make some kind of liaison to pull it together, delete one vowel, maybe delete unaccented vowels, etc. But I guess you can see what I'm trying to do here. All right. So this concludes my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for not including Ablite, but I told you why. Yeah, this is like the first attempt of how my future videos shall be structured. I'm aware that this is a pretty long video. Yeah, so my following video will be on Ugaritic. I can't tell you when I will release it. I'm still struggling with some technical difficulties that I still need to find workarounds, but I hope I can go on, finish my next videos. If you follow me on Instagram, or also some of my community things that I do on YouTube, don't know what you call them, I sometimes try to show you, to give some insight on my progress and how much they're still going to be released. Yeah, just don't I don't know, just be patient, and I will try to get it done. I have to take my time because I want those videos to be, I have high expectations on myself, but you see where this is going. So next video, as I said, will be on Ugaritic, and thank you for listening. Stay tuned.